Please.
as a mole, gate, or she has been a triple major in PA, in Spanish,
No.
and
Good Lord.
political science, as well as ESBA and international business from the University of Denver 2010. As a reminder, we want our presenter to feel welcome, so if you could kindly turn off your cell phones and turn off other devices. If it's an emergency, you can take it outside, please. And we also have the evaluation forms, if you could fill that out, and I'll go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. As stated, my full name is Blanca Trejo, but that was a little too long, right? And so, Blanca Trejo, that suffices. Blanca, right? I stand for you right now as a representative from the college in Colorado. We are an agency within the Department of Higher Education here in the state of Colorado. Excuse me. I am going to be discussing a new piece of legislation, fairly new, that's called Colorado Asset. Colorado Asset will allow certain undocumented students, or students regardless of immigration status, rather, because there are citizen students who will also be eligible for in-state tuition rates under this new law, to qualify for in-state rates. Okay? So, as was stated in my bio, I was born and raised on the west side of Denver. I graduated from the University of Denver and have spent most of my life working towards immigrant rights and rights for all people, right, regardless of their station in life. So I will begin with actually a story about Jose Antonio Vargas. Have you guys ever heard of this gentleman by the name of Jose Antonio Vargas? No? Okay, well, we're going to hear a little bit of his story now.
My name is Jose Antonio Vargas. I was born in the Philippines. I moved to the United States when I was 12. My mother wanted to give me a better life, so she sent me to live with my grandparents in Silicon Valley. I loved America the moment I got here. Embraced the language, the culture, the people. English was my second language, and I learned to speak American by watching Frasier, Home Improvement, The Goldie Girls. I won the spelling bee in 8th grade with spelling emphatic.
I can get this, but I can get the overall.
In high school, I fell in
Because the
love with
exposure on this is so
journalism.
janky, I can't get it on this camera for some reason. Can you help me with that?
Then I
Exposure.
hired in Washington Post. I covered the 2008 presidential campaign, from traveling on Hillary Clinton's plane to pheasant
There's
hunting
like 3
with
settings.
Huckabee. I've interviewed
Yeah.
Al Gore for Rolling Stone and profiled Mark Zuckerberg for The New Yorker. I even won a Pulitzer Prize for covering the Virginia Tech massacre. At age 16, I rode my bike to the DMV to get my driver's permit. I brought my green card with me. The woman at the DMV flipped it around. She leaned over and she whispered, "This is fake. Don't come back here again." I went home and confronted my grandfather. That was the first time I realized
I guess this is what
that I'm an undocumented immigrant. What some people call an illegal. The first person I told was Mrs. Denny, my choir teacher. After she told me that she was planning a choir trip to Japan, I told her I couldn't afford it. But she said we'd find a way. We'd figure it out. Then I decided to tell her the truth. It's not really about the money, I said. I don't have the right passport. I'm not supposed to be here. Mrs. Denny got it. The next day, she told me the choir was going to Hawaii instead.
It just mattered to me that Jose was hardworking, he was enthusiastic, he was always coming to class, and it's our job to educate them, to make them better citizens of the world. It doesn't matter what country they're from or what their background or their legal papers are.
Mrs. Nettie was the very first member of my personal Underground Railroad. Americans who decided to help undocumented immigrants like me. Other members of my Underground Railroad include Rich Fisher, my high school superintendent, and Pat Hyland, my high school principal. For more than a decade now, Pat and Rich have been with me every step of the way, guiding me and supporting me as I've tried to define what it means to be an American. I define American as someone who works really hard, someone who's proud to be in this country and wants to contribute to it. I'm independent. I pay taxes. I'm self-sufficient. I'm an American. I just don't have the right papers. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I'm sorry for the loss that I brought. What would you do if you were a choir teacher and found out that a student in your glee club can't travel for a competition? What would you do if you were a high school principal and found out that one of your students can't apply for financial aid? What would you do if your child's best friend didn't have papers? As a journalist, I've decided to do what I know best. Ask questions. So let's talk. What would you do?
So Jose Antonio Vargas continues to be an advocate for immigrant rights around the country, and he has a campaign called Fight American. He's recently released a documentary about his life and what it's really meant to live in this country in the status that he is in. And so if anybody's interested in hearing more about his story or learning more about his initiatives, I highly encourage you all to look up YouTube or Google, right, to find American. There's many other stories of young people who find themselves in this very challenging immigration status in the United States from all different parts of the world and from all different types of backgrounds and communities. So, question for you guys: what did you guys think of this video? Yeah, sure.
I found it all the way especially the ACA, that was very exactly being unable to do what you want to do because it's simple.
Wow, yeah, right. So there's some resonance, right? Absolutely, resonance. Yeah, staying positive, right? Still keeping positive and staying motivated. Yeah. Anybody else? Were there any pieces of his story that you found surprising or that you thought were interesting? So were there any pieces that really struck out to you in particular about what he made or what he talked about? Some of the ones that for me really struck out, one of the reasons that I talk about this with students and with parents and even with educators is that when he goes to the DMV, right, he doesn't exactly know what his status is. And I find that in our schools, a lot of them don't really understand their status until they're about maybe 15, 16, 17, or 18 years old, when they're confronted with that question, right? Either from the DMV or even on their scholarship applications or college applications, what is your social security number? So that's one of the things that I have to remind our educators about also is that, our students aren't always aware about what the status means. And what implications it has for them, right? Additionally, the student Jose Antonio Vargas talks about building his network of support, building his what he terms underground status, right? That is even more so important, is to be able to find the people, the adults in your school building, in your community, who love you, who care about you, and who want the best for you, and that are going to support you along this journey. Because believe it or not, you are not going to be able to complete a college degree all on your own, right? Not even as a citizen, right? Nobody in this world is going to be able to do it all completely on their own. And so part of your charge that I'm charging you with today is, just as he discusses in his video, building that network of support, right? It is very fortunate to be able to see that in the Denver metro area, when students are trying to have these conversations with their adults and the counselors and the teachers in their building, there is an energy, there is a narrative that has shifted over the past 10 years, where students feel much more comfortable and there are much more communities of trust, where students feel like they can come and they can discuss these issues of immigration status and options for college in their school building. We looked at that about 10 years ago, or even, maybe even 5 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. Right? I remember back in my freshman year of high school, there was a young man who, the Denver Post did a story on the metro area anyway, that there are much more people who are willing to hear the stories of our young people and do what's in their best interest, right? And supporting them with their educational goals as much as we possibly can, right? But that's not always the case. So I remind our educators and our adults, and I remind you guys too, as students and as professionals, or as young adults becoming professionals, to also be aware of who you're addressing with and who you're talking with, right? Bringing people who you can trust, who you can confide in, right? To discuss these very, very sensitive issues, okay? The last one that I'll say, and let me pull up my PowerPoint again, just a second. The last one that I'll name is Jose Antonio Vargas, even though he has a very, Spanish, right, Mexican name, is not from Mexico. Where is he from? The Philippines, right? And so again, reiterating that it's important for us not to assume that because somebody has a Spanish last name, that they're in the situation, right? Like I named, that we have students who are from all over the world who are right now in this status in our state, right? I've met students from South Korea who are in this predicament. I've met students from Cambodia who are in this predicament. Someone from Argentina, right, who is in this predicament. So please, not to make assumptions that, just because this student has this last name, or because the student is an immigrant themselves, that must mean that they are X, Y, and Z, right? So being cautious and aware of assumptions that we make, okay? Those are some of the reasons that I like to show Jose Antonio Vargas' video. And why I also want to remind us that we sometimes get lost in policy, and that's what I'm going to go through right now. I'm going to talk about like a law, right? But behind that law, and more importantly, are stories, right? More importantly, are our students. They are lives that we're discussing with here, right? That we're discussing and talking about, and not just the lives of that individual, but the life of that family, right? And of our community. So reminding us to hold these stories in our hearts as we continue to discuss what is now law and policy. The last thing that I'll say too is, if there's any questions about what I'm presenting, if I say something that doesn't quite make sense, or an acronym that I use and you want to clarify, please raise your hand. As a facilitator, I do not like waiting until the very end. So please just raise your hand and go ahead and ask me that question whenever you got it. Great.
Still is not legal?
So there has been an announcement that was made on November 20th of 2014 that may allow him to apply for a type of deferred action. It's not deferred action for childhood arrivals, but he might be eligible for another form of deferred action for adults. But because we don't have the details of that, I couldn't tell you if he is going to be eligible or not. Yeah, that's a good question. But as of right now, Jose Antonio Vargas did not qualify under the first announcement of DACA. So, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, right? So I also like to show you guys the history of the Colorado asset legislation, because this type of policy didn't happen overnight. Esto no pasó de la nada, right? It took actually 8 attempts. So every little flechita roja, every little red flag underneath this timeline represents state capitol downtown, that Gold Dome building, right? And the first person to introduce this type of legislation was Representative Val Vigil. And I remember sitting with Mr. Vigil, Representative Vigil, when I was a sophomore in high school. Back in 2003, when we were talking about this legislation and what it meant for students who went to school with me, right? And we saw that bill fail 3 times, right? We moved forward with 5 additional pieces of legislation before finally passing what is known as SB 1333, and that was signed by Governor Hickenlooper on April 29 of 2013. Now we're in 2015 right now, but I also have to name that this is still relatively new. Okay, we're entering what's going to be our second real school year of implementation. Okay, so we had kind of 2013, 2014, we're now 2014, 2015, so next fall will be our 3rd school year of implementing this. And in all honesty, we've had some challenges, okay? With any implementation of a new law, there's ripple effects. And so we're just coming to really fully understand, right, what these ripple effects are for our high schools and for our colleges. All right? So I have to also reiterate that if any time when you exit this room, somebody is telling you something different than what I am presenting here today, please let me know. Call me, hit me up, let me know. I'm on Facebook, right? Like my status and friend me, right? Please, I would love to hear students experience with this in your guys' campus, and that is absolutely crucial, all right, that we are keeping our ear to the ground as much as possible to understand what students are actually experiencing and dealing with, right? And then having those discussions with our higher ed institutions to say, how can we make this a smoother process, all right? So I do have to name that just in case you guys exit out here and you still need help and support. I will pass out my information and display it on the screen at the end of the presentation for you guys to reach out to me directly, right? Meanwhile, this was happening in our state legislature. This was happening in the community. There were marches, there were rallies, there were students stepping up to the mic, there were protests, there were letters that were written, there were a whole groups of people who were coming out in support of this type of legislation and in support of this demographic of students. We had faith leaders, we had business leaders, we had nonprofits and for-profits and running the gamut, right? Coming out in support of this type of legislation. We even had economic reports that were saying this makes fiscal sense, economic sense for our state, right? We have all this happening, and I have to name that if it wasn't for students like you who are in this room right now, young people who are willing, with the protection and support of the community, to come out and talk about their stories, we never would have gotten this legislation passed, because no matter how much we proposed that economic argument to our legislatures, right, to our House representatives and our senators, would actually change the hearts and the minds and the votes, were testimony, were stories, right? So if it wasn't for those young people who got involved, right, and were fighting for what they believed in, we never would have gotten this legislation passed, all right? Any questions about this?
Yeah, I have no idea.
What do you mean?
What is you keep saying this, but I don't know what this means.
Let's get into that. Okay? So now, what is asset? Is that right?
What is it? I have no idea.
Yeah. So that's what you're asking, right? Great. So let me show you with this graph, okay, what we're talking about here. This is tuition and fees for about 1 year, so 30 credit hours, okay, at a handful of our public colleges and institutions. This isn't the full list, all right? This is some of them. These are our public colleges, universities in the state of Colorado. And we have 3 columns here, right? Resident tuition on one side. On the far end is out-of-state tuition rates, all right? Now, if a student were going to high school in the state of Colorado, and maybe they even went to elementary, maybe they even went to middle school, right? Their full years in the state of Colorado, they graduated with the Colorado high school diploma, but they were unable to prove lawful presence in the United States because of their immigration status, okay? They could be accepted to any one of these campuses, right? Based on their grades and their application and their letters of recommendation, you could be accepted to any one of those. But if you were unable to prove lawful presence in the United States, you were forced to pay out-of-state tuition rates. Okay? Out-of-state tuition rates. Question.
Is that still now?
Ah, great question. Now that we have had Colorado Asset pass, what Asset says is if you meet certain qualifications, and we'll go over those qualifications in a second, because like any good public policy, there's always like qualifications, right? If you meet the qualifications, you will be eligible for the in-state tuition rate, this rate right here, okay? Now fíjate, I go around the state and I continue to hear this rumor, this chisme that permeates our community that says you can't go to college si no tienes papeles, if you don't have papers. Anybody heard that before? In their school? Yeah? There's a couple people, right? Yeah. Guess what? That's a lie. And not just now, that has always been a lie. In the state of Colorado, never in our history have we barred acceptance or admission to any of our higher ed institutions based on immigration status. It has been based on academic performance, right? Always have you been able to be accepted and admitted. The barrier for most of our dreamers, right, our undocumented students, has been this. Okay. Know what's your name? Adriana. Nice to meet you, Adriana. Are you thinking about going to college? Yeah, that's what I want to hear. Anyone on this list by chance? Maybe interested, maybe?
Yeah, UCCS.
UCCS, awesome. So Adriana, what would you rather pay? Or what would you rather have your parents pay, right? Right? 18.5 or 8.6?
The 10 grand less.
Oh, yeah, right? 10 grand less, 8,600, right? That is the difference that we are talking about here, right? Now, caution, these numbers are a little bit old, so kind of spoiler alert, when you guys are getting ready to go off to college, these numbers are going to be a little higher, all right? I apologize for that in the name of, I don't know, all Colorado state people or whatever, right? But cost of the higher education is going up. These numbers are a little bit older, right? But what I want to show you guys is the difference between this column and this column, and the staunch difference, right? Now, a little caveat here as well. Ames and Colorado Mountain College are actually two local district community colleges, so they actually don't have in-state and out-of-state. They do have in-state and out-of-state tuition rates. What we're looking at right here is out-of-state, this is in-state, this is in-district. So if you live in the areas where Ames Community College has their campuses, you're going to get this lowest rate known as in-district rate, okay? Same thing for Colorado Mountain College. I hate to tell you this, but if you live in Colorado Springs or in Denver and you want to go to Colorado Mountain College, you're more likely going to pay this rate right here. Okay? Still ain't bad, right? But those are the only two schools that have that kind of weird, even additional lower rate, that in-district rate. Okay? What Access says is if you meet the eligibility, you are now eligible to pay these rates. All right? That is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about changes in immigration status. We're not talking about any other changes. We're talking about the price of tuition for any one of our 28 public colleges and universities in the state of Colorado. Is that clear? Does that make sense now? Like, oh, now I know what she's talking about, right? Okay. So now I'm going to go over eligibility. And do you guys mind helping me pass these up?
So, how do you apply for
You don't even have to worry about this. If you have graduated from a Colorado high school, right, and you're about to apply to any one of these, you don't even have to worry about this.
I don't know this.
Yeah.
So this is just for,
This is information. Yeah. Are you in this session? Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing, right? We have a young woman, and just like me, who's a citizen, right, this might not directly affect you. But I'm glad that you're here, because part of what I'm also asking you guys to do today is that when you turn around and you exit this building, help me spread a message. Help me spread a message that there is an option for college, regardless of your immigration status. Please, okay? Because a lot of students still don't know, and fíjate, a lot of counselors still might not know that this exists, right? Now, I'm one person who's trying to rodear el estado, right? Travel around the state, letting people, informing people that this exists. So I ask you that when you exit here, even if it doesn't directly apply to you, that you help me spread that message, right? That higher education is something that people can attain and have access to regardless of immigration status. It's just going to be a little bit different. Okay? So let's go through the eligibility. So if you graduated on or after September 1st of 2013, this is important. On or after September 1st of 2013, you have to meet the following criteria. 1, you have to have attended a Colorado high school for a minimum of 3 years immediately before earning your high school diploma or GED in the state of Colorado. All right, now that is important. You can have it be non-consecutive. So you don't have to have done, sophomore, junior, senior all in a row here in Colorado. You could have started as a freshman, left for whatever reason in California, and then come back your next 2 years and still be eligible. Okay, but it has to be 3 years minimum on your high school transcript. Okay, and you have to actually earn your high school diploma or your GED in the state of Colorado. I've already had a story of a young man who spent 3.5 years in a Colorado high school. Here, the last couple months, the family was forced to move to Texas. Okay, he graduated from a Texas high school and is no longer eligible. Okay, so if you must have your high school diploma from the state of Colorado. A few things to know about this, and more importantly, this one, the Ascent or Concurrent Enrollment Programs. You're a senior, right? How many other high school students do we have right now? You two, you. Awesome. Has anybody talked to you guys about concurrent enrollment programs? I'm seeing a few yeses, I'm seeing a few no's. Okay. Concurrent enrollment are awesome opportunities for all students. Now, it is dependent on what program your school has and the contract that they have with their neighborhood college or university, okay? But these are not AP courses. These are not IB courses. These are actual college courses, okay, that if you're eligible to take them, you gotta have that conversation with your counselor because every school is different, that you can take now while in high school, right? You take those classes while you're in high school and they can transfer with you when you leave and when you go off to college, okay? Great opportunity. If you have access to them, please, I highly encourage you to access them, okay? Now, if you do, as long as you do good in those classes, by doing good, I mean a C+, I think it is a C, C minus, something like that, and ask your counselors for that exact grade, right? As long as you pass your class, you don't have to pay for them. The district will pay for them, right? So you're taking classes for free for college, right? And the district is paying for them, but they are still eligible. You can still transfer those into your college institution, okay? In some of our high schools, they have what's called a 5th-year Ascent program. Sometimes it's called an early college program or 21st century program. Some of them have different names. Essentially, students will stay a 5th year of the district, okay? And all of their classes are concurrent enrollment. All of them are college classes. So you can still graduate with your friends, right? You can still take the selfies and dress up and have the carne asadas and the big barbecues, right? You can still celebrate, right, as a high school senior. But what ends up happening is you're still a student of the district. They hold your high school diploma for a 5th year. That 5th year, you take all of your classes, not in your high school building with those like snotty little freshmen, right? We don't want to deal with those. Any freshmen in the room? All right, no hating towards freshmen in the room. Okay, I'm just saying, right? But you don't have to be in the school building. You can take your college classes at an actual campus. All right, so I highly encourage you guys to have those conversations now, or rather on Tuesday when you guys go back to school, right, with your counselor about both concurrent enrollment and Ascent programs. And see if you're eligible and see if you can participate in those. The reason that I named that here is that if there's a student, and I actually had this young woman out from Burlington, Colorado. Anybody been to Burlington, Colorado? Yeah, man, neither had I, right? I've never been there. I didn't even know that place existed, right? I thought Burlington was just a Coke factory, right? Like, I didn't know there was a town named that, right? So I went out there, and she's like, yeah, miss, that sounds great, but I don't think I qualify. She moved to the state of Colorado her junior year, so she was there her junior year. She would be there her senior year, but she would not be there a 3rd year. She said, man, I don't think I'm going to make it, right? I'm not going to have those 3 years in a Colorado high school. Well, we discussed these programs about Ascent and concurrent enrollment, and her counselor was there, her mom was there, and they discovered that she was eligible for that 5th-year Ascent program. That 5th year that she's going to take now will make her eligible for Ascent, okay? That is one of the other reasons that I'm naming and talking about these programs, is that if there are students who are only here for 2 years, but they're eligible to stay and be a part of these Ascent programs, that would meet the 3-year eligibility for Ascent, all right? So in addition to having those credits under your belt, which is amazing and awesome, you'll also be able to qualify for in-state tuition rates when that 5th year is up. Okay? Any questions about that first requirement? No? You guys are good? Awesome. Second one, you must be admitted, that is the language of the bill, admitted to a Colorado state-funded college within 12 months of graduating or earning your GED. All right, that means that for anybody who's out there saying, miss, I ain't going to go to college. Nah, miss, I ain't college material. Nah, miss, I'm not smart enough. Right now, college ain't for me, right? Okay, so you say that, right? You graduate, okay? Then 2 or 3 years down the line, se te prende el foco, right? The light bulb goes off in your head, like, oh my gosh, I should go back, right? If you let this 12-month timeline lapse, and you do not apply within that 12 months after having graduated, you will no longer be eligible for Ascent, okay? So even if you're not sure you're going to go to college, even if you're not sure what you want to study or where exactly you want to go, please apply. Because the requirement for the law does not state enroll. It states admitted, right? Who can tell me the difference between being admitted to college and enrolling in college? Anybody? Tell me.
Admitted is like getting accepted, but enrolling is having other classes instead of.
There you go, absolutely, right? Enrolling is when you're actually taking classes on that campus and you're paying for them, okay? Admitted means they sent you that letter that's like, congratulations, felicidades, you have been accepted, okay? What are some of the colleges that give open admission to students regardless of your GPA and that don't ask for letters of rec and that don't ask for personal statements? Community colleges, okay? Please, 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 even if you're looking to go to a school like CC, great, wonderful school here, right, Colorado College, it's a private institution. So I had a young man from Vista Peak who's actually only had private schools on his list. He's like, I'm only going to private school, miss. You know, DU, Regis, Colorado College, right, only private school. I said, that's great. Please submit an application, at least one, to one of the public schools. Por favor. So that if anything were to happen, you'd have to transfer or whatever happens, you can always show, look, I meet the requirements of this law. Okay? It is up to the student to save those letters of acceptance. All right? Question?
So it doesn't matter if, so say you apply to UCCS and you get accepted, and you apply to CC and you get accepted, but then you apply somewhere else that's not in the state of Colorado and you get accepted and you're going there, you can still...
If you had to come back, so you go out of state, right, and you had to come back, right, having your acceptance to UCCS would make you, would fulfill the requirements of the law and make you eligible for in-state tuition rates. Great question. Great question. Anybody else? Question on these ones so far? Okay. Last but not least, we have the completion of the College Opportunity Fund application and the affidavit. We're going to go over the affidavit in just a second. I'm going to show you guys what that actually looks like, okay? So those, in essence, are the 3 main criteria for assets eligibility if you graduated on or after September 1st in 2013. That is a huge date because if you graduated before September 1st of 2013, you may still be eligible. If you graduated or you were one of those classes of students who had to wait, right? Back in 2013 when that bill failed, or 2004 when it failed, right? 2005 when it failed, and you've been waiting and waiting and waiting, guess what? You might be able to go back and be eligible under Ascent. You would still have to meet the basic requirements, meaning 3 years of a Colorado high school immediately before earning your high school diploma or GED in the state. You must still be admitted to a public institution here in the state of Colorado, pero fíjate, you will not have this 12-month restriction, right? So if you graduated in 1999 and you meet the first 2 eligibility and you're wanting to go to UCCS, you may still be eligible for this. You would then have to show UCCS that you've been physically present in the state of Colorado for the last 18 months prior to enrollment, prior to that first day of school, okay? The reason that I'm sharing this with you is that if you know somebody else, a cousin, a primo, an older sibling, a tío, a tía, your baby daddy, whoever, right, who graduated way back when, and they're looking to go to college, right, they might still be eligible for in-state tuition rates. All right? This isn't only for those who are graduating in the future. This is for those who've graduated prior. And they still have to complete the College Opportunity Fund affidavit as well, which we'll go over in just a second. Okay? Questions about this so far? No. Awesome. So I'm going to quickly name here DACA students, right? DACA. So to get us on the same page here, DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This was announced on June 15th of 2012 by the Obama administration, well, Janet Napolitano from USCIS, right, under the Obama administration. It is expansion of prosecutorial discretion, which means it is not law, okay? It is not the DREAM Act. It is not a pathway to citizenship. It is not permanent residency. It is none of those things, okay? All it does is it offers students who are eligible, you have to meet a series of criteria, all right? If you're eligible, you apply and you are accepted, then USCIS will grant you reprieve from deportation, so for protection from deportation for the student themselves, not the family. All right. It also, right, you can also, along with those same applications, apply for a work authorization permit, a valid social security number, to be used for work purposes only. Be very careful in the way that you use this DACA number. We'll go over that in some of the financial aid stuff here in a little bit. Okay? That is all it does. Now, there's a few things that are wrong on my slide. For instance, it says that it will be authorized for 2 years. On November 20th of this past November, 2014, there was an announcement that changed some of the rules and regulations of DACA. Okay? One of them is that it's now available for 3 years. So it does not have to be renewed every 2 years. For those who are in that renewal process now, they're going to try to give you 3 years. There's no guarantee that you'll get the 3 years right now. You might have to wait till the next iteration, okay, the next renewal period. But the way that it's written right now, it's renewable every 2 or 3 years, depending on when you actually got it the initial time. Okay? In the future, it'll be renewable every 3 years. Does that make sense? Okay? Be careful on your renewal deadlines. Make sure that you're working with somebody who can help you so that your renewal period doesn't lapse. All right? So that you get your renewal before your DACA original expires. All right? Questions on some of this stuff right now? Yeah.
So if you are here and have a green card, are you eligible for these in-state tuition options?
It depends on what type and what form, right? So for permanent residents, yeah, they are. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. Deferred action is also not law. I stated that. I got to reiterate it because in 2016, when the country elects a new president, we have no idea what is going to happen with this program. Okay? This program is solely dependent on the current administration. All right? So I also need to reiterate that and let y'all know that we don't know what's going to happen with this program when the country elects a new president. Now, here's the thing. DACA is federal level policy. It's not law, but it's federal level policy that affects the status of a student, right? It is defined as legal, lawful presence, but not legal status. Lawful presence, but not legal status. Two very different terminologies in the eyes of immigration, all right? So it is not legal status, okay? However, it will allow students to, for instance, be able to work legally in the United States for a period of 2 or 3 years, depending on when they got it, okay? That is what DACA is. It affects all the states. Asset is state law, okay? This is on the books, all right? And it affects Colorado only, and it affects the cost of tuition at any Colorado school for these students, okay, if you meet the requirements. That is it, right? DACA is federal, asset is state, right? There are students that might qualify for one, but not the other. There are students that might be asset that don't qualify for DACA, okay? We also have students who qualify for both, which is awesome, which is exciting, which is great, and students who won't qualify for either option, and either one, all right? Now, if a student has a deferred action social security number, and they do not meet the eligibility under asset, because again, they're two very separate criteria, they're different policies, right? If they have DACA but they don't qualify under asset, they might still be classified as in-state tuition students, but it depends on institution by institution and case by case, okay? There are some schools that if you can show and prove that you've been in the Colorado and paying taxes to the state of Colorado for a number of years, or 1 year, or I think it's a number of months, please don't quote me, I don't know the exact time frame that they're asking for, they might be able to qualify you for in-state tuition rates with DACA under already existing policy, okay? But it's case by case, it's situation by situation, it is not a blanket policy. Questions around the difference between the two? You guys are awesome? Okay. So what do? If you think you're eligible for asset, what's the first thing to do? Apply. Apply to college, okay? Now is already the time when you guys are hitting those deadlines, right? Some of the community colleges, all of the community colleges have rolling admissions. Metro also has rolling admissions. You gotta apply to whatever school you want to go to, right? We have like college application month, which is in October. There's all kinds of supports to help you guys submit your college applications like any other student. We have our College in Colorado website, right? Where you can submit and create an account, and you can get tons of support. We even got a lot of our resources here in Spanish for you as well. The next step I would say is submit your other additional paperwork and communicate with your college. Please, the college that you want to go to, all right? You're going to want to start to create a professional image, all right? One thing that I see a lot is students with these crazy email accounts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are already juniors and seniors in high school, you guys should not be having emails like Big Booty Mama, right, at yahoo.com, okay? Or Papacito Chulo, right, at gmail.com, right? Now's the time when y'all are going to be creating those professional email addresses and checking them. So don't create some like long old password that you ain't never gonna remember, okay? Create a professional email, a password that you're gonna be able to get it back into and respond and communicate to your schools. The ultimate decider of who gets in-state tuition and who gets out-of-state tuition, who is classified as a resident for tuition purposes and who is not, is the college, not me, okay? These emails are very important for you guys to be communicating with your college, all right? The other thing I see a lot is these voicemails, man, right? Now don't get me wrong, like I like Nicki Minaj too, right? She's alright, she's cool, okay? But I ain't gotta hear her song play every time I want to leave you a voicemail. Por favor, okay, please, right? So if you have a cell phone and you're leaving your number on these applications for scholarships and for colleges to contact you, please make your voicemail more professional, all right? Yeah? Or the one that I don't like the most, man, where it's like, hi, hey, yeah, that's cool. Psych, I'm not here, leave a message. And here I am, like, talking to the student, right? No one's there. Okay? So, check your voice messages. COP, College Opportunity Fund, is a small stipend for students who have lived in Colorado, went to school in Colorado, and now want to go to college in Colorado, right? They're from here. Under asset, students can apply for COP and get $75 per credit hour. It's about $1,800 a year. You have to apply for this, okay? You have to go on and apply. Hold on 1 second. This is the difference between this column and this column, right? And again, like I said, the reason that I excluded them two is because there's, in-state, out-of-state, and then in-district rates. So that's why I've only highlighted those ones. So again, we got with COP, without COP. Those are those two columns. Question?
So if you've already, you've been to a school that uses College Opportunity Fund and you believe that they've completely, like it's completely out, can you reapply again or you don't ever get it?
So for instance, you were talking about the 3 schools, right?
Yeah.
UCCS, Colorado College, and an out-of-state school, right? If you're an asset student, your COF dollars would only apply to UCCS. So if you left and you came back, for instance, or you went to CC and then you went back to UCCS, your COF dollars would only apply to the public college or university that you're going to. Okay? If you're a citizen, then there's a small part of COF that, yes, you can take with you to the private schools. It's $35 per credit hour, not $75 per credit hour.
So I thought that what you're talking about now is what this whole thing is supposed to do that. So like, is it like already due date already done for the application for that?
Great question. COF doesn't have an exact due date, okay? You can apply online, and when you guys leave here, you guys can apply then, right? So a lot of the schools will already have you being applying. The schools, if you go to a public college or university, or if you're a citizen and you're going to one of the eligible COF private schools, okay, they're going to want you to complete this, right? And usually before the start of your first days of classes, right? That's kind of like the due date, right? Now you will have to renew COF, but there's a way on your online account that you can set for automatic renewal, okay?
And that's every year.
Every year they'll give you $75 per credit hour.
If you meet the qualifications.
And if you're a citizen or permanent resident.
So deferred action about,
If you have DACA, but you are not eligible under asset, then you're not allowed to.
if you have both, like.
If you have both, then yes. Now that's a good question. That's what my slide is here. If you have a deferred action social security number, okay, you do not need to put it on your application for COF. All right? You simply indicate I do not have an ID. All right? You meet the eligibility under asset, which means that you have a minimum of 3 years in a Colorado high school and you're graduating from high school in the state of Colorado and you're applying to one of our public institutions, right? You meet the eligibility and you have DACA in addition, you do not need to use your DACA number on this COF application, okay? This is what the paper application looks like. And again, the first question that it asks you is not what's your name, it's what's your number, right? Social security number. So students get really excited because they're like, all right, I can answer this question, right? And I have to tell them, wait, hold up, wait a minute, not on this application, okay? Not on this one. You don't have to. You check the box, indicate that you have a DACA number, right? You write in your contact information, and then you indicate that you meet the eligibility under asset. Now this is the affidavit. This is linked to the COF application. You write your name, your first name, your last name, your signature, you sign it, you put it in the Colorado high school that you attended, right? Or where you attained your GED. What this states is this: I have applied for lawful presence in the United States, or I will apply as soon as I am able to do so. Okay? This is housed with the Department of Higher Ed. This does not go to immigration. This is only completed once, not every year, once, and it's housed within College Assist. All right? That is what this is. You sign it, it's a part of your COF application, and that is how you're able to get the COF stipend if you're an asset student. Good? If you have questions around the COF application, if you're not sure if you're completing it accurately, if you used your DACA number and you want to take it off, right? Or if you already have an account and you can't figure out how to get in it or any of those questions, then I strongly suggest you talk to College Assist directly. Okay, this information is on their website, their confirmation is here. Peggy Hill and her team of people are really great about being able to answer your guys' questions about COF. Okay? Good? Awesome. So, we're going to continue on. We get into one of my, it's not my Janetto, but one of my favorite parts of this presentation is financial aid. Paying for in-state tuition is still expensive, right? Now, I don't know about y'all, but I actually don't have $7 grand in my account right now, right? Or even in my pockets or anywhere, okay? $7,000, $8,000, right, or more, should school minds, even at in-state rates, is our most expensive public institution at over $16,000 a year. It's still a lot of money, okay? So for our asset and our DACA students, it's important for you guys to know that you are not eligible for federal aid. Not for grants, not for the Pell Grant. I should be more specific, okay? Not the Pell Grant. As a citizen, as a permanent resident, or even if you have other types of immigration statuses, very particular types of immigration status, you might be eligible, or are eligible if you're a permanent resident or a citizen, for federal Pell Grants, okay? You're also eligible as a citizen, permanent resident, or if you meet one of these other very specific immigration statuses, for government-funded work study, okay? As an asset and as a DACA student, you are not eligible for that money, all right? Not for Pell Grants, not for the government-funded work study programs, not for any other type of state or federal merit aid, loans, or scholarships.
So what are those?
Those are all a part of the FAFSA application. Have you guys talked about FAFSA already? Yeah? That's what all of those are a part of.
So then if you are a part of the asset, then you cannot apply for FAFSA.
Ooh, great question. I'm gonna get into that in just a second, okay? Asset does not make you eligible for any other types of benefits either, like health insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, or any of that, all right? What you are eligible for is institutional aid. Institutional aid comes from each individual school or higher ed institution, and they have discretion over public funds and private funds and who they can award, regardless of their immigration status, all right? Colorado College has made an interesting promise. Now, I haven't had conversations with the director of financial aid, but as a private institution, they have promised that if you meet the eligibility of admission and you get accepted to Colorado College, and you're an asset, you're a DACA student, they will meet need. That is an incredible promise, right? As a private institution to meet need. Our public institutions have the option of offering institutional aid. That can be grants or scholarships that come from the school itself, but that won't transfer. Okay? So these institutional aid, if CSU is offering institutional aid, it's not going to transfer to UCCS, right? That is institutional aid. Okay? If you have DACA and you have authorization to work legally in the United States, you can get a job on campus. Okay? You can get a job working in the political science department or in the library or in any of these other places on campus. That is absolutely allowed, but you will not be eligible for the work study, traditional forms of work study. Okay? Right? Now you're asking about the FAFSA, right? So this is where the FAFSA comes in. And I got another short little video for y'all.
Do you think college is out of reach because of your immigration status? Do you think finding funding will be impossible? Not sure if or how to fill out the FAFSA because you're undocumented or your parents are undocumented? Well, don't worry, because Deep is here to help. First thing you need to know is that after you fill out your FAFSA, you receive your Student Aid Report, or SAR. The SAR is the form that outlines your financial status, and it's what universities and scholarship committees use to determine your financial aid. Originally, DACA students like you and me couldn't use our social security numbers on the FAFSA without it coming back to haunt us. Basically, this prevented us from applying to scholarships and institutional aid, even though they were open to undocumented students, because they required the SAR. This year, the U.S. Department of Education made it clear that DACA students can use their DACA Social Security number to fill out the FAFSA online and to get the SAR. So what exactly does this change mean? Now we have access to particular scholarships and institutional aid that require the SAR. But this doesn't mean that we have access to federal financial aid. SAR, institutional aid, yes. Federal aid, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. And if you live in states that already offer state financial aid, such as California, New Mexico, Texas, or Washington, things can get a little tricky. Some should fill out their state financial aid forms, and others should fill out the FAFSA. If you still have questions, live in these particular states, or just want to find out more, check out Deep's webinar. I have DACA and I can fill out the FAFSA. Say what? You can find it at unitedwedream.org/deep. I hope you join us and share this with all of your documented friends.
United We Dream is a nonprofit organization that works nationally. Through their collective efforts, they've been able to gain clarity from the Department of Education to say, yes, DACA students, you can complete the FAFSA with your DACA Social Security number, but you must indicate non-citizen, non-eligible. The reason that you would want to complete the FAFSA, just to reiterate what we just seen in the video, okay, is that you give an economic picture to the school, okay? As a citizen or a permanent resident, you would be eligible for these grants, work studies, federal student loans, right? All these things that are associated with the FAFSA. And there's a lot more information about the FAFSA, right? And what happens after you complete the FAFSA on this little handout, right? For DACA students, the reason that you complete the FAFSA is not to get these benefits, but it's to show the school that you have economic need, right? Now, if you're like me, man, I come from a poor family from the west side, right? Little Mexicana from the west side. My expected family contribution was 0. The federal government was like, yeah, you are poor, right? For me, that was a good thing because then I was able to take advantage of the most benefits that I could as a citizen, all right? If you have an EFC of 0 as a DACA student, that is an indication to the college or university that, hey, this pool of money, right, probably goes to the people who have the most economic need. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So I just want to make sure that you guys are clear with that, because those are some of the changes that have been happening from last year to this year. All right? So you can fill out the FAFSA with the DACA number, but you must indicate non-citizen, non-eligible. Any questions on that right now? All right? Awesome. Scholarships. This is also part of what is very exciting. Schools like CCD, this is taken from their actual website, all right? They will show you what you need to do to be eligible to fill out scholarships for their school, all right? Get onto the financial aid pages of the school that you're wanting to go to and look up this information, all right? You can see what exactly they're asking from you for institutional aid. And like CCD, does a great job of posting up exactly what they expect from their DACA and asset student, right? They give you what the asset building is again, and they give you direct contacts if you have questions about the institutional aid at their school, all right? Not all of our schools have all this on their website, but I'm seeing more and more of them kind of trying to do something like that, okay? So ask your school about what they have. These are scholarships instructions, these are other FAQs. The other thing that students will be eligible for is private scholarships. This is very exciting. Now I've been able to see more and more scholarships like CESDA, Coffee for Less. I have no clue if their coffee's good, but hey, they give out scholarships, right? So that's cool. That's cool. Migrants Immigration Law Firm. These are scholarships that are awarding students regardless of their status. Even if you don't have DACA, they're still awarding scholarships for all students. CESDA is due, I think, in March. That's a scholarship for everybody, okay? So, hey, everybody in this room, man, hey, take a look at CESDA's application and see if you guys can submit it. Last November, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund changed their rules, and they said we are going to allow DACA students to apply for our national scholarships, hsf.net. hsf.net is their website, okay? The Dream.us is a new organization that was launched with $2 million to be able to award scholarships for DACA students across the country. Now, unfortunately, the Dream.us has to have a school partner. And right now, the list of schools does not include Colorado, all right? But it does include some of the out-of-state ones. So you should look it up and see if that out-of-state option, if they might have the Dream.us scholarship, okay, as a partnership. We've also seen local and state organizations like Denver Scholarship Foundation for Denver Public Schools and the Better Foundation, who have said if you meet both eligibility for asset and DACA combined, you might be eligible for their scholarships. Now, they have other requirements. Veterans, their deadline has already passed, okay? And they are looking for the top of the top, all right? They're looking for those 4.0 students with, really good grades. It's a very competitive scholarship for the state of Colorado, right? But it is now open for the first time for asset and DACA students, all right? We're seeing these changes happen. We've also come up and developed a list of scholarships, a guide, because if you Google scholarships for undocumented students, a whole bunch of stuff comes up, right? So much stuff that you might not be eligible for because they're for California, or for Texas, or for New Mexico, or some other state. So what we did, and by we, I mean Cynthia, she's awesome, I didn't do it, she spent about 200 hours looking through all of these different sites and scholarships to try to develop a scholarship guide for Colorado Dreamers, okay? Either with DACA or without DACA. So one of the easiest ways to find this is Facebook.com/Keeping Dream Alive. Don't put the dots, Keeping Dream Alive. That's one of the ways to find this list. I'll show you guys another way to find this list as well, okay? So it's a great guide to get you started. I strongly encourage you guys looking up LAEF. Is another scholarship. LAEF.org has been awarding scholarships regardless of a student's immigration status for years. All right? Private scholarships are absolutely up for grabs, and more of the foundations are willing to change the requirements to allow these students to apply. Right? Other creative ideas. Now this is kind of funny, right? So I had a friend of mine went to DU as well, and for all 4 years, man, Pablo made tamales. Okay? Now I can't tell you it was like a health code, verified kitchen, all right? But I never got sick, so hey, let's eat some tamales, right? But he made tamales to be able to help pay for college, all right? I have another friend she did hair and makeup. She did hair and makeup for my wedding, and I looked good, right? If you guys ever need hair and makeup, I'll direct you to her, right? But I was like dancing all night, and my hair looked good, and my pictures looked good, right? It was awesome. But she was doing that and paying out-of-state rates at Metro because that was before ASSET had passed, right? She was doing that to pay for her school, right? She graduated with a degree in communication, and she's now working for Telemundo, Colorado, right? I have another friend who just recently graduated from Metro, and she makes cakes. And she did cakes for weddings and for baptisms. She even made us a little cake for our wedding, for my wedding, right? And then my husband tells me, oh yeah, she makes cakes for divorces too. Well, you know what? We're only been married 2.5 years, and he's already putting in his order for his divorce cake? You gotta be kidding me, right? But hey, man, if it's support Sarai, then no worries, right? We'll give her that money. So there's a lot of other creative options that students are doing, even like creating GoFundMe accounts. Now be careful with GoFundMe accounts. They're not automatically going to, pour in money. You have to actively ask people for fundraising, for donations, and for investments. And GoFundMe is a for-profit business, so they're going to take a little bit of whatever it is that you raise, okay? But this is an article from the Latino Daily News back in November 2013 talking about how students have used these online crowdsourcing as a way to raise funds for their school, all right? Where there is a will, there is a way. Donde hay ganas, hay manera, all right? It is very important, please, for you guys to be thinking about all the different ways that you can fund your education, all right? And why? Because it's worth it. Because this is an investment in your future, and not just for you, man, but for your siblings and for your community as well. And I'm the first person out of my entire extended family, and I'm talking cousins, aunts, uncles, I said this earlier, like baby daddies, baby mamas, grandparents. I'm the first person out of everybody in my family to complete a college degree. But I'm not the last, because once I paved that road, right, my brother followed, a few cousins have followed. I've got a cousin right now who's taking classes at Metro. He did some military service, and he's going back to school, right? Even though I was the first, I'm not the last. Right? And that's what we're seeing when students are willing to pave that road, right, and be the first ones in their families to go off, right, showing the rest of the familia and of the community que sí se puede, right, that it is possible, right, for students like us, where we've come from, regardless of our obstacles in life, that we can be done, right, and we can be those living, breathing examples que sí se puede. So this is quickly just to show you guys what schools we're talking about here. ASSET will only apply to our public colleges and universities. These are our 4 years. These are our 2 years, myriad of community colleges, and our three technical schools. All right? Here's my contact information. I'm happy to talk to you guys, to share with you, resources for scholarships, resources that I come across, right, that are happening all the time. Happy to answer your guys' questions. I want to I'll put this back up here in just a second. Let me show you guys a few other websites, right? CICColoradoAsset.org, that is the website that's listed on this little flow chart, okay? We're posting up a lot of information there for you guys to access that. We also have our College in Colorado website, so I strongly encourage you guys to navigate College in Colorado. Here on this site, we have over 18,000 scholarships, especially for citizens and permanent residents, right? The Keeping the Dream Alive Scholarship Guide is right here, okay? So you can search here. You can also open up the scholarship guide. This is what the scholarship guide looks like. This is what the Facebook page looks like. Keeping the Dream Alive, right? And that's Hispanic Scholarship Fund. Okay? So let me go ahead and post up this slide. Do you guys have questions? Comments? Concerns? No? You guys are set? You guys are ready? You're pumped? Yeah? How many of you guys have applied to scholarships already? Is it hard?
Yes.
Wait, I'm hearing yes and I'm hearing no. No, why not? You just gotta follow. Yep. Why yes?
Because it takes a lot of time. And
Oh,
when you don't have
yeah.
that time, it's kind of hard to make it.
We have something to do with you.
Oh, thank you. but it is absolutely worth the time and the effort, okay? And what I tell students is, look, every year there are thousands and thousands of dollars left on the table that no one ever gets. ¿Por qué? Why?
Because nobody applied.
Because nobody tries for it, nobody applies for it, right? Please apply to as many scholarships as you can. And the way that I tell students to look at it is look like this, okay? There's a scholarship and they're offering you 500 bucks. 500 bucks if you go to CC doesn't look like a lot, okay? But hey, 500 bucks is something, right? Those are your books, right? It could be something. So you spend 1 hour filling out a scholarship application for 500 bucks and they give it to you? Híjole, that's $500 for 1 hour of work. I got my college degree and ain't nobody paying me that much money, right? So please, please, please look at it in that way, okay? The effort that you put in will absolutely, you guys will reap those rewards, right? Even if it does take time. Okay? Thank you guys. Oh, and I did something. Yay! Oh. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it. And thank all of you guys for your time and attention. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have had a wonderful conference. Let me know if you guys need further information, okay? Thank you.